Hi everyone, welcome to Multisensory Monday, or maybe I should be calling it Sarah's Spelling School for the beginning of this year. Remember, we are taking the beginning of this year to go through some of those common spelling rules that we could all use a little bit of a refresher on. This rule I actually didn't even know existed until I was in my 20s and I was doing my training to become a tutor and an instructor for Phonics First. So I love teaching this because I get to tell my students that they're learning something that I didn't even know about. And I also find that a lot of the teachers I train aren't familiar with this rule either. Don't ask me how I made it through so many years not knowing about it. So, what's the rule? When do you spell a word with C and when do you spell a word with K? Both C and K can make the sound k at the beginning of a word. Yes, C can also make that soft sound s, but that is the topic for another video. For this rule, we're talking about when you hear k at the beginning of a word, how do you know if you're supposed to spell it with C or K? C comes before A, O, and U. K comes before I, E, and Y. I know, if you think about it, you'll notice that maybe you, like me, had just kind of picked up on that pattern without ever thinking about it. When we teach it to our students, we want to make sure that we are explicit and that they have a better understanding than I had. To do this, I like to have them make little posters of the drawings that I'm about to show you. So these are an illustrated kind of mnemonic. Let's start with C. I have my students on their construction paper start with a fairly large letter C. Now, we're going to use the vowels that go with C, A, O, and U, to make a little cat. So let's add two A's. Those are going to be the eyes. We'll put an O for the nose and a U for the mouth. So now, if we add some ears and some whiskers, we have our cat, showing that C is with A, O, and U. Then they make another poster to help them remember that K goes with the other vowels, I, E, and Y. Here, once again, we're going to start off with a big K. You will want to make a capital K because what we're going to do is we are going to turn that into a diamond. We're going to turn this into a kite. So we add the second half of our diamond and we add those cross supports that kites have. Now K is spelled K-I-T-E. Let's add that in. We have our K. We'll add an I. Our T is already there, so we'll add an E. So we have kite. And then I did mention that sometimes Y, so I like to just put a Y at the bottom. Now if we add on our tail and some bows, we're all set. We have K with I, E, and sometimes Y. So students will now have their own copy of these pictures to help them recall. Another thing that I really like about this, you don't have to make a huge poster. So after you've taught this, I like to remind my students if they ever need some extra help, they can do a tiny version of these pictures in the top margin of their paper. And that can come in handy for a spelling test or even when they're doing any sort of writing on their own. After we teach the spelling rule for C and K, I always like to make sure I follow up by having the students apply it in the spelling of words. My older students, I'll usually just do some dictation words, some words with C and some words with K. I take my words right from the Phonics First curriculum guide because I know then that my students will know all the other skills in those words. So I give the words, the students pound and tap the sounds, and then they just write the appropriate spelling with the C or the K depending on the word. For my younger students or my students who are just struggling a little bit more, I like to do an activity like this instead. This is just a sheet of spelling with C or K, and I do give them the little illustrations there. Now, instead of giving them a word and making them do all the work of listening for the sounds and the vowel, here they're just working on adding the C or the K. So they get to look at the vowel and fill in the proper letter. After they've filled them in, the students can then go back and read the words so that they're getting some of that decoding and fluency work as well. I hope that you learned something new. At the very least, I hope you learned a new activity that you can do with your students. Please let me know in the comments below. Did you know about this rule when you were younger, or is it something that you learned when you were older, maybe as you were doing your teaching courses? Also, if you have any other ideas for teaching C or K, I would love to hear them, so please leave those in the comments below as well. Share this with any teachers that you know. This is going to be a great series for any elementary school educator